सदाशिवसमारम्भाम् शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ताम् गुरुपरम्परा श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम् शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः. So we are going to continue. Though I know there are just 2 classes so far, but I almost feel as if we have been doing this for so long. I have to keep reminding we're still in the introduction and I cannot forget doing the basics still. So, okay, I'll just do this invocation. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. What is this? Anyone? No guesses, no tries?
Looks like branches of a tree.
Looks like branches of a tree, yes. Anyone else?
Looks like neurons.
Excellent. Yeah. Looks like neurons. Okay. But it's the cerebellum, the part of your brain, which controls movement, coordination. No. Leaf, correct. Lungs, no. Urdhva Moolam, tree, no. It's the cerebellum. Veins in the body, very good. Good tries. No, it is not the lungs, though it does look like it. That's right. Cerebellum basically controls movement, coordination, maintains balance, areas helpful for motor skills. They even say it helps with emotion processing and things like that. But that's obviously not our point here. The point here is, how do you recognize, can you see this with just your plain simple eyes? Do you see cerebellum with the eyes alone? No. Are these physical eyes adequate enough? Are they equipped enough to see this structure of cerebellum, which is actually your part of your brain? This is how it is, and this is also not the final form probably, but this is how advanced the imaging has come to. All this that you see as trees and veins, it can be like river with tributaries from a drone village, a drone image. These are neurons, but to your physical eyes, they are not seen. To see this, you have enhanced the capacity of your eyes with the help of specific equipment. The capacity of that equipment, along with your eyes, of course, the capacity of the equipment is what is it capable of revealing. Supposing it's just a simple microscope. A simple microscope will reveal to the capacity the microscope has the lens powerful in it. But if it is an image like this, there are isotope images, there are nuclear images, you are able to see it's like a piece of art. But how much of an image you are seeing is dependent upon how capable is your equipment. This equipment is what we are calling praman. Karanam, praman. What is a praman? Praman means that which is helpful in causing a prama. Prama is knowledge. Bodh, janana. Prama karanam. The means for you to gain the knowledge, that means is pramanam. Each means has its own, like your eyes is a means and it can only show the gross world. The intricacies, the delicacies, the subtleties of matter, you have to enhance the equipment. The lenses are more and more powerful. Once it is enhanced, Prama, whatever to the degree that lenses, to that a degree it is capable of revealing the object. Chadlingas, we said, are helpful in determining the tatparya, the essence of what that subject is. Chadlingas is that, you may call it the processing of information. Once it is processed through these 6 steps, the essence is picked up. Based on that essence, what is the topic it covers? That topic, when it is to do with something that your ordinary senses cannot reveal. That topic that it talks about is not in the capacity of your sense organs. It is not in the capacity even of your buddhi. Such a topic, and yet it is capable of being known. Those 6 steps, upakrama, upasamhara, abhyasa means constantly repeating a point, and because of that abhyasa, there are different variations because Gita is giving us so many points. So you have Dvaita schools, you have Vishishta Advaita schools like we have done in the previous class. You will have different commentaries on this because they will emphasize on what is being repeated. So the schools of Dvaitins would say Sharanam is repeated. Tilaka, like said, what is repeated? Karam Yoga is repeated. So based on what is repeated, you are arriving at a nishchaya. You are arriving at a conclusion of what this topic is talking about. There was a question on apurvata. I'm just touching upon it again because the word novelty can be a little misleading if you take just the translation. Apurvata means apurva. पहले कभी नहीं देखा गया, कहा गया, सुना गया, जाना गया by anyone. The topic is, in simple words, apaurushaya. It doesn't mean just that the book has novelty in it. The topic is new. The topic that this subject will talk about, this topic has not been touched upon by any of your other means of knowledge. It is new topic. It is something that you will not discover with your best equipment in the world. That is apurvata. Phalam, yes. What is it? The phal that it gives is something that is desirable. And not to one person or 2 people. It is desirable universally. You will not have a section of people who will say, I do not desire happiness and an unending state of happiness. मुझे ना मालूम आपको, मेरे को कोई तरीका ऐसा बता दो, मुझे थोड़ा दुख मिले. Have you ever heard anybody say that? You are having counseling session, asking for means to get dukh. I want to find unhappiness. I want to find sorrow. How do I get it? Is this question ever being heard by anybody? You never hear that. What you hear is, I want happiness. I want to know how to be more happy. So the phalam means something that you are yearning, you desire, and not you desire, universally it is desired. Then comes arthavad. Arthavada means there is this glorification of the topic, how beautiful it is. It's almost like stuti. A little exaggeration is the right word. That exaggeration is done to convey a point. Like, for example, supposing you go for a talk and somebody has to introduce you, and when you are being introduced, whoever introduces you, what do they do initially? This honorable person, so and so, done this and this. Your biodata usually has a little more beautifully worded words than actually what its outcome is. Glory. You're glorifying initially, honorable person has done this and this, is respected like this. A little on the higher side of exaggeration draws one's attention to what the actual point is. So Arthavada is actually a very useful way of discovering what is the topic really trying to convey. And opposite to that was Ninda Karna. What is not the topic? They literally condemn it. There will be portions where it is looked down upon. That is also exaggeration to convey the point. So Stuti, Arthavad and Ninda, both of them are almost simultaneously used, not together, certain passages, but just as Upakrama and Upasamhara come together, Arthavad and Ninda come together to draw the attention to what is the topic. And then Upapatti means illustration. You have to show how it is relevant in life, in the world, through examples, through illustrations, through stories, all of this. Once the Tatparya has been arrived at, and that Tatparya is a Paurushaya, a Laukik Vishaya, Adalingas have helped to determine what is the essential meaning. Once you have determined that, what is this topic's essential meaning? And it has fulfilled all the 6 conditions. What is the advantage of seeing the Shadlingas? Now this text is going to be called a Shastram. So what are the Shadlingas? With the help of this, it is now determined it to become a Shastram. And once it is a Shastram, it acts as an independent pramanam. Just as you have this nuclear imaging, it's a pramanam. It's a means to know more subtle things. In the same way, the topic that the text covers, the book gets the status, the topic gets the status of pramanam, and it now becomes an independent pramanam, which means whatever is the capacity of that book that it promises that it conveys, it is capable of revealing that. Is this point clear to everyone? Because right in the beginning, before one really takes on the subject study, one needs to see how relevant and what authority does the text hold. Now that previous image, how beautifully we were able to interpret it in so many ways. Rivers, veins, trees, Urdhva Mula, so many ways we were able to interpret it. Once it is clear that this is part of your brain, with the help of that pramanam, whatever was the capacity of the pramanam, it is capable of revealing it. Similarly, identically, Bhagavad Gita or any Shastra, whatever is the Vishaya it takes upon and the phalam it promises, the fruit it promises, the prayojan it has, the Shastra becomes a praman to deliver that. Which means, can anybody take out the extrapolation of this? Which means what?
Which means if it's a moksha shastra, then it's a praman for that Brahman and that moksha.
Exactly. Correct. And what is the other side of it? It is choiceless, that it will not convey what it is trying to convey. There will be no choice there. It doesn't function ki maybe it will happen, maybe it won't happen. Maybe it is not a fluke, it is not luck, it is not a chance. If the book has promised whatever it promises, Shastram promises means it reveals something, it shows something that it is capable of generating for you. The nuclear microscope, whatever that image is caused by, is capable of generating that image choicelessly, effortlessly. So how is Bhagavad Gita? Because it has been picked out from Mahabharata, and it is just about 700 verses, and there's one verse which is also not sure if it's a part or later added, so it's 701 verses. These are independent praman. It's got the status of a shastram. Whatever they are saying, they are capable of delivering, revealing, showing, accomplishing for the one who is desirer of the topic that it is in. Now, how many of us are going to go through to see what is the cerebellum and its cross unit? I'm not interested. Most of us say we are not interested. Whoever is interested, is that kind of an imaging possible to be known by anyone?
Anyone who makes the effort to look through that
You will
microscope.
have to go through its process of education. When even a simple X-ray, if you've not trained your eyes to see an X-ray, and if an ordinary person looks at an X-ray, what does he see in an X-ray? You have eyes, you have the X-ray in front of you. Can you decipher the X-ray? But the one who has gone through the education, the minute he sees the X-ray, there is no doubt in his mind what that X-ray is there saying. So Bhagavad Gita becomes an independent shastram, having the capacity of being an independent pramanam, because it promises what we said. Its job is samsara nivritti. We said in the previous class, why are we studying Bhagavad Gita? Because of the universal force of want of happiness, which is only Shastra Drishti is possible if the root cause is eliminated. And root cause is, in simple terms here, not knowing who you are. So samsara, wandering, samsarati, samyak sarati, घूमते रहना. घूमते रहना is not physically in this life, just Brahman in the Brahmand. In the entire Brahmand, Brahman hote rehna. That is samsara. Samsara nivritti means withdrawal of samsara. Elimination of samsara. If Gita is moksha shastra and it is promising samsara nivritti, a shastram which is promising samsara nivritti. Now when we understand it has a status of it being a pramanam, what will it deliver? Samsara nivritti. And samsara nivritti, the other word for it is, from the relative sense first, samsara nivritti means the small pinpricks of life which disturb us even before normal understanding of life. Most of us don't even have common sense understanding of life, which deals with a lot of disturbance and agitations. Once the Shastra gives us fundamental laws of life, once we understand the fundamental nuances of life and how we are just a part and product actually a part and product of life, as one small section of it, one unit of it, we see ourselves as one amongst everyone else. जो वहां होता है वो यहाँ होता है, जो यहाँ होता है वो वहां होता है. There is no difference between two people at all, factually speaking. Whatever is happening there, the insecurities, the attachments, the dukkha, the sukha, the anger, whatever works in anyone else works here. Whatever works in us works everywhere else. Every prani has the same thing going on, different in degrees, not in kind. So Shastra promises it as nivritti. So first, what does Gita do? Why Gita becomes a great text is because the knowledge of Gita first and foremost gives you the immediate quietness required in life. When you start seeing things as things, what happens? A lot of disturbances are gone. Like for example, supposing I was attached to something, I was I was handed down, say, by 2 generations, 3 generations. I received something from my grandparents' side, and it was an old say object, some glass object or something. I was just treasuring it because it's handed down. And lo and behold, supposing it broke or it's got lost. What is the first thing that happens? The very first instant reaction. Sorry?
Sorrow.
You feel?
Sad.
Sad. You feel sad. You feel, and that sadness can last how long? As long as you had a value for it. If you had a very deep value for it, the sadness will that last. It'll last that long. Now, the minute you understand, by what? By abhyas. इतना ज्ञान तो सबको है. We don't need a shastra for it. कि जो चीज भी दुनिया में है वो टूटती है, टूटने वाली है तो टूटेगी, जाने वाली है तो जाएगी. Everybody has it. Yet, that object was capable of giving me an alteration in my state of mind. I was sad. Everyone has this common sense, isn't it? That if there is an object, that object is subject to being broken if it's a breakable object. Very fascinating. You know, the Corelle plates is supposed to be unbreakable. I have managed to break it. Unbreakable doesn't mean actually it's going to remain unbreakable eternally. Unbreakable in normal circumstances, but it can be broken. That means everything can be broken. What is to be lost will be lost. What is to undergo? This is common sense. We see it everywhere. But where does the sadness enter? When did it enter?
When I formed an attachment to it.
And when did you form the attachment? How did you form the attachment?
By giving it a value that was higher than what it should have been.
Because to what did you value? Did you value the object? The value was transferred to the object because of the relation.
Yeah.
You value the relation, and that value to the relation got transferred to the object, so the object became symbolic of the person or of the lineage or something. And the minute it has become, absolutely correct, mera family heirloom, the minute it has become, that imposition has happened on the object, what is that object now being looked at? Supposing I'm a guest at your place, you invite me for bhiksha, okay? And you invite me for bhiksha, and when you, or just, and I see that object there. I don't know that it's your heirloom. How am I looking at that object? Without the knowledge of the value you hold for that object? Can both of us have the same drishti to that object? Can both of us have the same value towards that object?
True.
Till you tell me what this object means to you, till then, my value for the object may not even grow this much. I just see it and I look another way. It's a piece, beautiful piece, maybe. But you look at it another way. But what happened to that object the minute you started holding a higher value to it? You didn't realize it was a superimposition of the person on the object. Is this person still there? It's a handed down, 2 generations down. Is the person still there? May not be there. Okay. Now, this object that is there is conveying that person. So what am I holding on to? When did the dukh enter? That time, the minute I, of course, most of us do it very innocently. We don't recognize it. I am valuing the person and I now hold on to the object. The law will be what is broken is going to be broken. The minute I have this law as an acceptable state of living. So even though I value the object, definitely the person, I understand I'm actually valuing the person. How has Gita helped me? I'm giving an example. By sheer understanding of where should I place my object, the value to, yes, I value the relation. This object is a representative of it. As long as it's there, it'll remind me of the person. I'm thankful, I'm grateful, I'm happy. It's nice if it stays and gets handed to the next generation. It's all very beautiful. Vyavhar mein beautiful, no doubt. But can I delude myself that it will never get broken? So for a student or for one who has grounded in these values, this knowledge, the gain is, Shastra says here, samsara nivritti means a lot of these uppar ke pinprick dukha. I call them pinpricks. Chote needle dukhas that keep coming in our lives every day. A lot of these are taken away, are resolved. One finds the inner peace relatively and the gati towards, inward journey towards knowing what is the paramagati, moving on towards that till that absolute gain is also got. So relative samsara nivritti up to the point of absolute samsara nivritti. That is what a praman is supposed to deliver. Now, just for the sake of, I don't know how many are today, I can't see if there are many new people here or not. The first 2 classes, I know many have enrolled, but in case there is someone who hasn't gone through this, and since I don't know who all is here, I can't see your faces and everything, so I will just quickly state where the few minutes where Bhagavad Gita stands in the whole context. So Vedas, we all know, everything comes from the Vedas. Those of you who have done the Tattvabodha understand, we have seen this, so it's very simple. Now this can be divided, it has 4 sections. Sometimes we just say it has 2 sections, Brahmanas and Upanishads. Sometimes we divide it into 4 sections, Samhita, Brahmana, Aranyaka and Upanishad. When it is divided into 2 sections, Brahmana and Upanishad, Aranyaka is added in Upanishad, Samhita is added in Brahmana portion. Samhita is more of suktas and praises of the deities. Brahmanas are descriptions of rituals. Aranyakas is more focused on upasanas, to various deities. And Upanishad is all Gyan Kand, which is Atma Vidya, Brahma Vidya, and that is what we call as Vedanta. So what is Vedanta? It is not to be taken as the Vedon ka Ant as has become popular in the world today. Veda Anta, last portion of the Veda is Vedanta. Vedas don't have a last portion like that. The topic of the Vedas, which is the conclusive topic for a human's aspiration, a human aspiration's conclusive aspiration will be moksha. Vedanta deals with that. So that portion is called Jnana Kand. Upasana portion is called Upasana Kand. And Samhita and Brahmanas, because they deal with rituals, is called Karma Kand. Upasana Kand is also not a separate, like a section there. It is included in the Jnana Kand. So a lot of Upanishads will have Upasanas, but they will not mention much about Karma. So finally, it almost boils down to Karma Kand and Jnana Kand. Jnana Kand is Vedanta. Then quickly, what is that in Vedanta? We said Prasthanatrayi. First class I mentioned how it is a Prasthanatrayi. You have Brahma Sutras written by Vyasa. You have Upanishads from the Vedas. And Shankaracharya has commented on 10 Upanishads. So they become Mukhya. They are called principal. Means Mukhya Upanishad. But there were thousands of Upanishads in the Vedas even I think about 300, 400 years ago. Now we have about 108, I don't know the latest figure, about 108 or 110 still there. Out of them, Shankara picked up 10 Upanishads and commented upon them. So these kind of become the course material. And Bhagavad Gita, which is the Smriti Grantha. So Upanishads is Shruti, Brahma Sutras are Sutra Grantha, Shruti Grantha, Smriti Grantha. Together they are the Prasthanatrayi. Before one entered into Bhagavad Gita, normally a Jignasu student who was ready to take on lives, few years of their life just for the adhyayanam of the Shastra, would start at Bhagavad Gita. A little higher may start only at Upanishads and Brahma Sutras. Lower it came to Bhagavad Gita, and then now we have gone even a little lower. We have to first introduce the topic through a few introductory texts like Prakarana Grantha. We did Tattva Bodha before, and Upadesha Sar is just about getting included. It's not a traditional Prakarana Grantha, but it is now getting the status of a Prakarana Grantha in Vedanta also. And we finished. And now we are starting Bhagavad Gita. So this is for all of you who still are trying to understand where we are in the context of the Bhagavad Gita. So the entire Shastram, as I've just said, Shruti, Smriti, and Sutra Grantha. Smriti has Dharma Shastra, Itihas Purana, and Itihas Mahabharata, and now Bhagavad Gita. So the whole graph is there, and now you know where the source of the knowledge would be. That means whatever you study in Bhagavad Gita, where should it lead to? If you go to the previous. Okay. So all the Shastram is coming from Veda. So everything will come back, merge back into the Vedic knowledge. Whatever the Vedas are saying, if any of the Shastra is not in line with it, it doesn't get the topic correct, and therefore it will not be called a Shastra. Now, from continuing the last class, we saw the two birds from the Mundaka Upanishad. I hope everyone remembers. Yeah. So the two birds one sitting at the lower branch, enjoying nicely the fruits, bitter and sweet both. The other one sitting at top. Now, what is the word on top? Krishna, here in the context of the Bhagavad Gita. Paramatma bird. Paramatma is Brahman, Atman, any word, don't worry about that. Krishna here represents Paramatma, Brahman, absolute truth. The bird at the bottom, lower bird, busy enjoying the fruit, is Arjuna, the Jiva bird, all of us. Krishna, what is this bird really representing? Sat Asat, Nishchayatmika Vritti Upahit Chetan. From a Hindi perspective, this definition is Upahit chetan means that awareness, that chetana, that cognition. Upahit means mounted on it. So sat asat nishchayatmika is ascertained. निश्चय हो गया है, सत क्या है, असत क्या है. The awareness, the cognition, the knowledge of what is absolute truth. And in the light of absolute truth, everything that is asat, not truth, false. Another word we saw was mithya. Krishna is sat, asat, nishchayatmika vritti. Vritti is thought. Means the discernment that is there, correct discernment of what is the absolute truth is Krishna. Who is Arjuna Jiva? Shoka Moha Yukt. Means he is joined to, जुड़ गया है अपने शोक और मोह के साथ. Shok is grief, sadness. Moh is delusion, born from wrong understanding. Galat soch, attachments keh lo. Attachment I am not very comfortable using throughout the Gita. I may even make corrections to it because it has been blown out of proportion unnecessarily. It is all fine for Jivatvam to have a certain degree of attachment within their legitimate relations as long as those relations are following the laws of dharma. So attachment is not really the issue in a human being. Avidya is the issue. So when moh is got translated as attachment, it is not very correct translation. Moh is something जो आपकी बुद्धि को सही सोचने से रोक लेता है. Deluded thinking. English is a very difficult way to convey these certain words. More, supposing, I'll tell you an example. I have held, supposing, okay, this is an example only, please. Supposing I have a value to go to Mount Everest. I have harbored this desire for very, very long. No, forget it. I want to go to the moon. Why stop at Mount Everest? If I have to go, I might as well go to the moon. I have a desire to go to the moon. And I have harbored this very deeply. And I've planned, it means from my childhood, I have planned I'm going to become a space scientist and etc. etc. I'm equipping myself so that I go. Kalpana Chawla is my ideal. I have to go to the moon once at least. धरती को मुझे वहां से देखना है. And why देखना है? Because I as a person will think कि अगर मैं धरती को वहां से देखूंगी तो I will get a certain degree of objectivity with reference to life on earth. When I get that standpoint, I will probably look at life around on earth in a different view. So I want to go to the moon. Now, that desire over time, I have fed my interest in. These words are very important, okay? Don't skip the chronology of the words. I have fed the desire by my interest in that. How has the desire grown? I have constantly fed that interest. I have attended to that interest. And the desire has now become a huge desire. And everything I have done so far, my choices I have made, my habits I have inculcated, everything I have centered around that desire. Now suddenly, supposing I have a difficulty in life, say a family situation or something, and I may have to give up the desire. Now, when I have to give up the desire, what will happen first? Imagine it's a really grown desire. I have harbored it for a few years. And now I have to give it up because not of my inadequacy, but because of a certain situation outside that I may not be able to follow it. What will happen to that mind? My mind? Moh kise kehte? I'm trying to say that. At that point, my mind is going to throw all kinds of excuses, wanting to hold on, maybe later, maybe not. I will just not be ready initially to accept that ये नहीं होने वाला इस lifetime में. Moh means all that will prevent you from seeing things and accepting things as they are without resistance. Attachment may be only one of them. That is the strength of moh. Shoka moha yukt. But besides being shoka moha yukt, because if it is only shoka moha yukt, then he's a sansari completely. But along with shoka moha yukt, there is a jignasa. There is a desire to know. Can you hear? Yeah, okay. I think people can hear or not. So there is a desire to know. That jignasa to learn or to know how to deal with the shok and moh so that I'm free of it. That jignasa, shoka moha yuk jignasa vritti upahit chetan, means the person finds himself with shoka moha also and also has a desire to be free of it, of the limitations, of the dukkha. And it may not be a specific dukkha like the example. Generally seeing has a jignasa, what more is there? That chetan, that awareness, that consciousness, that jagriti, I would say, in oneself, that awakening in oneself is Arjuna. So the upper bird, higher bird, sat asat nishchayatmik. The lower bird, shoka moha but jignasu, is willing to get out of this shok and moha. Wants to only know, someone to point out how to. Because खुद नहीं हो पा रहा है तो कोई बता दे correct कैसे निकलना है इस शोक मोह से, and then automatically the vikas, I would say, the growth of thinking, the growth of knowledge, the growth of the employment of one's inner faculties, of knowing what is true and false relatively and permanently, sat asat nishchayatmika buddhi is what is that word. So far, everyone okay? Now, in Gita, there are two sarthis which are popular. One sarthi we all know. Krishna, Arjuna's sarthi. Partha sarthi is called. It's known. Arjuna's sarthi is Krishna. Karna's sarthi is Shalya. Krishna we have already seen. Sat asat nishchayatmika buddhi. He is whose sarthi? Arjuna's sarthi. And who was Arjuna? Shoka moha yukt jignasu vritti. Uska sarthi is sat asat nishchayatmika. First this much. What does it mean? Wherever there is shok and moh in oneself or confusions in oneself, who leads? Who will you choose as what leads you in any situation? Sat asat nishchayatmika buddhi. What does Bhagavad Gita give you? Equips you to know sat asat nishchayatmika vritti. It will help you to discover this vritti. You have it, you just don't know it. So by being taught from outside, by hearing it in your ears, you know what is a sat buddhi and what is an asat buddhi and how to develop it. This should be your sarathi. It should lead you in your choices of life. Shalya, on the other hand, who's Karna's sarthi. Karna as a character in Mahabharata has been a character who has always felt he's been the victim. He's played the victim card. He's a very noble person, but he's always felt himself, I do not know the exact English word for this would be, what does he feel always? He feels he's been not justified, sorry? Victim. He just always feels he's been wronged, so victim. He didn't get his due. Other than all his good qualities, heart to heart, he has always harbored a sense of being wronged by people and society. And when he gets to know that Kunti is his mother and he is the eldest Pandava, now that has turned into a complete sense of non-acceptance, and that goes more deep-seated. The feeling of wrongness gets deep-seated. Uska sarthi kaun hai? Shalya. Shalya by word means it's the point of a spear or an arrow. चुभता है ना? अगर किसी की बात आपको चुभती है, that चुभती है is what? That like a spear and an arrow, it hurts. It's like a thorn. It's like a splinter. Torments you. Shalya is that sarthi, which means you are letting that what torments you lead you. So Karna is already feeling betrayed, and his charioteer his sarthi is one that holds on to the pain. And that he holds on and lets him lead his choices in life, lets him lead his life. So, who is your Sarathi? As a Jiva, when there is no knowledge in us, all of us are Jiva, all of us have Shalya as our Sarathi by default. Because one who gives us happiness actually gets forgotten easily. Or it's just a memory. But the one who gives us pain, how does a jiva hold on to him? Is there a difference in the way we hold on? जिन चीजों से हमें आनंद आया है, सुख आया है, और जो चीजों ने हमें दुख दिया है, is our attitude to the two same? So those that give us that pinch, hurt, if that is going to lead us, then the Sarathi we have chosen is again one of the other avidyavans who is going to hold on anyway. By character, by nature, holds on to the mental anguish, torments himself. Who should be your Sarathi? This is a choice. When Bhagavad Gita gets introduced in a person's life and the knowledge gets established, slowly, slowly we realize we learn to give up this, the lower vritti that holds us, makes us feel I'm victimized, learns to give that up and starts the journey or engages in Sat Asat and lets that lead the life. Now, before we move further, just a few characters that are going to be common in throughout the Gita and Mahabharata we see. Main character, of course, actually Dhritarashtra first, but let's start with Sanjaya. Sanjaya by word. Samjaya. I should have broken them up. Samjaya. Jaya, conqueror, conquered. Jeet liya. Achhe se jeet liya. Samjaya. Samyak jaya. Jayati. The one who has controlled completely. What? Senses, mind and buddhi. His entire jivatvam is completely controlled by him. What leads Shalya? what leads us, impulses, feelings, all that. Sanjay is one who has learned to conquer them. Now, Vyasa had given a choice to Dhritarashtra first, that he should be able to see the war himself directly. Dhritarashtra had clearly said in those verses, vehemently refused straight away, not doubt bhi nahi aaya tha. Straight away he said, no. Those verses are very beautiful also. When he uses those words, he says, I don't want to see them. Because he says he's going to feel very pained seeing the outcome of the war. Heart to heart, maybe he knows, but there is a reason he gives. He just says, I don't want to see it. Then he says, you give it to Sanjay. Sanjay getting this drishti is a prasad. Sanjay did not seek it. He did not want it. He did not even know about it. It fell in his lap. It fell in his life. But what brought him to this point? He was seen to be an adhikari, to receive impartially, to see impartially the happenings without taking sides. His adhikaratvam was recognized, and therefore the opportunity fell. It just came. So Sanjay means, in other words, when we keep on staying with the knowledge and growing ourselves, life and situations keep on unfolding themselves, surprising us almost to the point of saying it can only be a miracle. Because what happened to Sanjay, from an ordinary drishti, एक आम आदमी क्या कहेगा उसको? ये कैसे हो सकता है? तो miracle है. That he was able to have a chakshu, jnana chakshu, straight away being able to see, not only see. Mahabharata says he was not just seeing, he was able to see the minds of the people in there also. So what was Bhishma thinking? What was Arjuna thinking? Sanjay could receive it. Who becomes the receiver of all this? In whom does this prasad fall? Impartial jiva. Impartial person. When do you become impartial? When your senses, mind and buddhi you have good control over. The impartiality of view. The impartialness means you are not swayed. What does impartial really mean? You are not swayed by your raga and dvesha. Your likes and your dislikes. Such a Sanjaya was chosen, of course. Afterwards, Vyasa gave this to him. Dhritarashtra, on the other hand, he's not just blind by eyes, as the Shastras and the Acharyas would say, he's blinded mentally. It's not the eyes that is referred to. What is he blinded by? He's blinded by aham and mama. मैं, that victim card person. मैं, poor, मैं, बेचारा, मेरे साथ ये, मेरे साथ वो. Go. The fault is always in the situation. The fault is always in the people outside. जो सामने मिल जाए ना, बस उस fault उसका है. बस. और वो fault उसका कब तक है? जब, and it can last for few months, few years. It can, as we see in Dhritarashtra's life, his whole life. That unreasonability of not acknowledging that there's no question of seeing a fault. It is as is. Situation is that. You have to accept it. That aham and then mama from it. And he's trying to fulfill what he feels as lacking through his own children and things. So understands everything from here onwards. Aham and mama is what blinds a person. मोह का क्या देता है? मोह का कारण क्या है? Aham and mama. Therefore, as I'm referring again, attachment should not be seen as a major problem. There is a whole Vedanta in the world outside which is as if attachment has become the main cause of suffering, and Vedanta deals with that. No, Vedanta deals with avidya, not just attachment. Attachment is just one of the factors that is bound to happen if you don't have knowledge. This aham and mama, if you break his word itself, meaning of the name, Dhritam Rashtram Yena. By whom? Yena means by whom. जिसने राष्ट्र को धृतम पकड़ के रखा है. धृत राष्ट्र, who's holding the राष्ट्र जकड़ के, पकड़ के रखा है उसने. कौन सा राष्ट्र? Is it the राष्ट्र हस्तिनापुर? Who's धृतराष्ट्र here?
संसार को पकड़ के रखा है.
संसार को पकड़ के रखा है. एक्सलेंट. अहम ममा से तो संसार ही हुआ आएगा ना, उसी को पूरा पकड़ के रखा है. एंड ब्रिंग इट क्लोजर. अपने ही जीवत्वम को, जहां से संसार शुरू हुआ है, शरीर को पकड़ के रखा है, मैं को पकड़ के रखा है. दिस वेरी राष्ट्र इज वेयर ऑल दिस इज हैपनिंग, स्टार्टिंग विद योर बॉडी. Holding on to it because he never could get out of the fact that he was blind. His whole identity was around the fact, it started from I am blind and it remained I am blind throughout his life. That one incidental factor that he can't see, his life centered around it. So many of us, in fact, so many of us hold our physicalness, physical bodies, physicalness as that dhritam strongly. Because he was holding his views, his viewpoint, his personal standpoint, what he thinks, what he feels, what he understands, he thinks, and as we saw in the verse, very important verse, he saw dharma as adharma and adharma as dharma. So when the aham and mama is held strongly, धृतम राष्ट्रम, अपना ही नजरिया बस दिखता है, सब कुछ इधर से ही दिखता है. And that is not wrong, everybody has it by starting. But Dhritarashtra is not the one who is going to receive Bhagavad Gita. Who is the one who received Bhagavad Gita? Sanjaya received it. Vyasa, of course, received it. Arjuna received it. And of course, as the story says, Hanuman, story as in Hanuman receives it, he was sitting on the flank of the... So, who received the Bhagavad Gita? Who heard? Sanjaya narrated the whole thing to Dhritarashtra. He didn't receive it. So that is why, many, one of the first things I heard when I understood Vedanta, even a little, this sentence shook me quite. I used to always say Bhagavad Gita, I'm one of those very, traditionally oriented, so people should approach the knowledge, the teacher should not go, and all those ideas at that point a lot more. So I always used to wonder, why is everybody was getting included, tum bhi aa jao. I wasn't able to understand clearly at some point, why is Bhagavad Gita being spread so much in the world? And then I was told, Swami Chinmayananda had told his first, because he's the one who was a big, major, thanks to him, that been a huge renaissance of this knowledge, his efforts of making it available to society. So to his first batch of teachers, he told them, he says, when students said, but especially in weekly classes, everybody is not ready for the knowledge, especially to those who have renounced and gone to learn, they know the difference. So to those teachers were asking Chinmayananji, should we not spend our life just being in our sadhana rather than going and teaching to people where we are going to teach, and their minds are stuck like in their own world viewpoints and things. And should we be doing that? And Swami Chinmayanji at that point answered, and that resolved one's doubts. He says, you go distribute it wherever. There'll hardly be a receiver of it. When he says there'll hardly be a receiver of this knowledge, it shakes a person up. That means, so the students asked back, then why should we do it? He says, you do it because you are the one who's going to be also doing manan of it. And by that process, you cannot eliminate someone just because they happen to be there. Who will it benefit? You cannot judge. So go distribute it freely in the world. Dhritarashtra was given. Did he receive the knowledge? So who will receive the knowledge will not depend upon Krishna, will not depend upon Vyasa, does not depend upon Sanjaya, who's also the narrator of it. It depends entirely on the who is holding the Aham and Mama strongly. Dhritam Rashtram Yena. So pakad ke baith, and this Rashtra can be anything. It can be home, it can be land, it can be mandir, it can be anything. Pakad ke baith jana. That thing ye mera hai, ye main hoon. That is Dhritarashtra Buddhi. And Dhritarashtra Buddhi will interpret the entire message of Gita as the opposite of what it is. Dharam ko adharam kaha na usne. I have understood ki dharam has no place. These Pandavas are taking to adharma, killing their own people. He doesn't see that Pandavas are on the side of dharma. They are on the side of adharma. He doesn't recognize this is moh. This is a perfect example of moh. Is this just attachment? No, it is far more deeper than just attachment. It's wrong thinking. And a wrong thinking is virtually impossible to be corrected from outside. The more you correct it, the more it holds on. Dhritam Rashtram. The more you try and give the correction, the more they will hold on. But I am right. So, these are the main characters. And then, of course, Pandavas. These are the central figures. And Panda, word itself, by word Panda means Sat Asat Viveka Buddhi. And those who have it, they were called Pandavas. Pandit word is also from Panda. The one who has supposed to have Sat Asat Buddhi is a Pandav, is a Pandit. Common meaning that has floats around is son of Pandu, because Pandu, another word meaning also of it is pale, yellowish, white. Because he was born, I am saying with a weak heart, maybe a hole in the heart or whatever, but he was pale, he was yellowish, because we know the story. I'm not going there. So, Pandit is the one who has Sat Asat Viveka Buddhi, and of course I'm adding to it, and he employs it also. Just doesn't, once you have it, it automatically comes out, but means, in other words, he's an Atmagyani. Now, in the Gita, where Gita actually starts, is 2nd chapter, 11th verse. And in 2nd chapter, 11th verse, Krishna gives a complete take-up to Arjuna. And there are a few times the word Pandit is going to be used. Almost, this is my personal flavor, you can remove it, but I feel almost Krishna must be sarcastically telling him something at that time. It's like Arjun ko. Because in the 11th verse, he starts by saying, Ashocyan nanva shochastvam, means you forget about that. At this point, pragnavadamscha bhashase. Because of moh, as you will see in the first chapter, Arjuna gives a lot of reasons why he should not fight the war. He thinks his thinking is now correct. And finally, he was making a mistake all along by saying I should fight. And now he's got the right understanding that he should not fight. And there are reasons he comes up with. Prajnavadam, as if as a very knowledgeable, wise person. He gives a lot of reasons in the first chapter. Bhashase, you have been talking like this. Arjuna, Krishna tells Arjuna, you're talking as if you're a person who's a very wise person, with a lot of wisdom in you. Gatasuna gatan sumsha, forget about that also. Na anushochanti panditaha. Those who are truly wise people, they do not grieve. Na anushochanti. They do not grieve. Who are the wise people? Panda. Who was Panda? Sat asat viveka buddhi. If you really have sat asat viveka buddhi, then you know what is born will go. What is manifest has to be unmanifest. It is a change. There is nothing called death. This is one of the most difficult things to accept for most people. It depends upon your inner maturity. There is nothing called death. है ही नहीं. There is only existence. There is either existence as a change, or you will discover your changeless existence. But existence is a fact. So, prajnavadam shabhashasa, you talk as if you know a lot, but you are revealing that you are ignorant. How? By the fact that you grieve. Na anushochanti. If you really have knowledge, na anushochanti, you do not grieve. So Pandavas, son of Pandu, yes, all of 5 were sons of Pandu, but actual meaning throughout will be Sat Asat Viveka Buddhi, who has. Then we have the last pair, important pair, Duryodhana. Without Duryodhana, how can there be a war? So Duryodhana has to be there. And by his very name itself, Dur Yudh. And then there is a pratyay called Yuch, and Yuch becomes An. So Dur Yudh An. That Yudh and An is Yodhan. Dur Yodhan. What does Dur mean? Bura. Vile, manipulative. Dur is a prefix. Like Dukh maybe, it is Dukha. The state where you are in vilap always. Dur means bura karna. So Sara time his mind is always in the sense of thinking incorrect, wrong. Yudh is to make war, means ladte hi rehna. So finding ways to fight. You have a lot of people in the world like that. They'll find any excuse to pick up a topic to fight. That is Duryodhana. Another meaning is because he's so calculative, manipulative, he's so scheming, he's ill-intended. He's so difficult to conquer. By Swabhav, he's become so naturally manipulative and he's difficult to conquer. The biggest thing with Duryodhana was, as Shastra points us, many people say it was a war of dharma. Yes, it is a war of dharma. And that dharma was on Pandava's side. But that is not true. Dharma was on both the sides. How? In the side of Kauravas, Vidur was the one who was representing Dharma Buddhi. He was constantly telling them what is right, what is wrong, what is to be done, what is Dharma kya hai, wo constant. He was a wise counsel. But Duryodhana's behavior to Vidur, how he treats Dharma, we all know this in the story. He ignores him, and in the later part of the story, when Duryodhana's bitterness has grown so much, he almost, Vidur leaves them also and goes. this Duryodhan Buddhi will not be following dharma, will not respect dharma, wants dharma to follow him. Means dharma should, the principles of dharma should accommodate. The principles of dharma should adjust according to him, his thinking, his likes and dislikes, etc. Yudhishthir, on the other hand, his name also has Yudhi in it, war. Yudhi sangrame sthiraha. That sthiraha. He's always sthir, firm in war. Yudhi is sangrame. Yudhi sthiraha. Yudhishthiraha. He's firm in war. Which war? Whatever, he's himself a Dharmaraj. Always the one who's upholding a war for the sake of dharma. Upholding dharma is that war. Dharma is drinai dharane. Drinai, by word dri. Dri is the root. Hold karna. Support. Dharati. What is dharti? Earth. Prithvi. She gets the name Dharti because she's the supporter. She holds. So whoever has capacity to hold, that holding capacity is dharma. The word comes from there, dharma. So dharma is that which holds the universe, holds the cosmos. Dharma is that which keeps flourishing the life, keeps life flourishing. Dharmraj himself, his whole army follows him. Everyone, including the other Pandavas. They are following dharma. And as a person, when he is fighting for dharma, he is not wavering in what is dharma. He's firm in war, means he conquers based on dharma. These are the few important characters. And now, before we go on, we have 10 minutes more. Before we move on, we will see that there is also a very important part of Bhagavad Gita. I know some of us will be saying, Jaldi shuru karo, jaldi shuru karo. There is no jaldi here. Let's go with the krama because this is one lifetime. This is it. Actual Gita, before it starts, there are two sections before. One is called Gita Dhyanam. Gita Dhyanam are those dhyan, by the word dhyanam, they bring the mind to the point of focus on the study. There are those verses. And before that, there is Gita Mahatmayam, the glory of Gita. That Arthavad in the Shadalingas will be pointed here. And how am I here? Can you see it?
Yes, Deepti ji.
Great, thank you. Very good, we managed so far. So, Gita Mahatmayam. Mahatmayam here, clearly it is that Arthavad. Arthavad of Gita, Bhagavad Gita. This is not a part of the Bhagavad Gita, it is not a part of Mahabharata. It is actually from a Puran. And in the Puran, it is the Varaha Purana. In the Puran, there is a dialogue between Vishnu and Prithvi, Dharti, as a goddess. She's asking Vishnu that when people, because she's Dharti, she's holding, she's supporting life here. And she says, when people here are suffering or going through their prarabdha, how should they develop an unflinching bhakti towards you? This is her question that she asks Vishnu Bhagwan. Is the question clear? Dharti, the supporter of life, We call her also goddess. She, because she supports life, she is a witness to all that's happening on earth. And what happens on earth, we all know, is more suffering than anything else. So she's asking Vishnu, she says, how is it that people can find alleviation of their suffering? And her point, it's a Puran. So her point is by developing unflinching devotion for you, which means in their mind the thoughts should be of the higher. कुछ ऐसा पकड़ लें that their suffering should be alleviated. How can they do that while they are going through their prarabdha? So this is supposed to be Mahatmyam, normally either done before starting the Gita or at least done at the end when we end the Gita, 18 chapters when they are studied. Because 18 chapters are going to take some time, we better at least do this to the starting itself. And it has its own faida, it has its own utility along with the joy it gives you. It is Arthavad, so it sets the mind to what is to come in a way. How should you look at it? The greatest benefit here is, by default, all of us as human beings are looking at फायदा, our own फायदा. इसका फल क्या है? क्या मिलेगा मुझे? Because this is going to be a lot of time and investment on both our parts. So am I going to benefit from it, etc. So Arthavad means now here this Gita Mahatmyam is going to show us the fal that you get by engaging yourself in Gita. So I will just start. I will quickly, in short, keep giving you the meaning of each verse. Shri Paramatmane Namaha Atha Shri Gita Mahatmya Prarambhaha Shri Ganeshaya Namaha Shri Radha Ramanaya Namaha. This must be added by whoever's uploaded it. I'm taking something from the web itself. Dharovacha. There is a spelling mistake in the very first verse. Bhagavan Parameshana Bhaktiravya-vicharini Rarabdham Pujyamanasya Katham Bhavati He Prabho. So the spelling should be Parameshana, not Paremeshana. So that's a spelling error. So Dharti is asking Bhagwan, He Prabho, Param Isha, you are the Param Isha, the Lord, highest. Prarabdham Bhujyamanasya. When Bhujyaman means jo bhog raha hai, it's in present participle. Jo bhog raha hai. Prarabdh jo bhog raha hai. Katham bhavati, how will it be possible for them? Bhaktihi avyabhicharini. To have that unflinching, doubtless is what I would say. Bhakti in you, and by bhakti here is not just bhakti, but in that unflinching conviction in you as the highest principle. That life, the prarabdham is a short coming and going. Life has a greater prayojan. How will they have it? So Shri Vishnu Uvacha. Vishnu is giving the answer to Dhara. How will I finish it? I don't know. Prarabdham bhujyamano hi Gita-bhyasarata sada samukta sasukhi loke karmananopalipyate. He says, whoever Gita abhyasa rataha. This is the important word. गीता का अभ्यास करते हुए जो रतः रेवल करता है, enjoy करता है, सदा, always. Who's always enjoying means he's reveling in the knowledge of the Gita and it's employing it in life. While prarabdham bhujyamanaha, while prarabdha is going on, such a one, sa muktaha sa sukhi loke. He gets freed finally, mukti, and also sukhi loke. He gets sukh in this loka also. While his prarabdham is being faced, he also gets sukhi, happiness. Moreover, karmana na upalipyate. He doesn't, the karmas do not entangle him. The karma phalas do not. So prarabdham is a result of karma phala. So he says to such a person, his karma phalas do not catch him, do not hold him. Then mahapapadi papani gitadhyanam karoti chet kvachit sparsham na kurvanti nalini dalam ambuvat. So like a lotus in a pond, kvachit sparshaha na kurvanti, even this much it will not affect. What? Mahapapani. Even if a person has done great sins, महापाप किया हुआ का फल भी अगर कोई भोग रहा है, गीता ध्यानम करोति चेत, if they are reflecting on, not just meditating as meditating, if they are reflecting on the words of the Gita, then even the greatest of papas cannot touch the person. Like a lotus in a pond does not get affected. So papam will not affect the jiva. Even this much it will not. However much is the papam, even this much the jiva will not be affected by it. If Gita dhyanam karoti chet is if he does Gita dhyanam, then Gitayah pustakam yatra pathav pravartate tatra sarvani tirthani prayagadini tatra vai. Wherever Gitayaha pustakam yatra, wherever there is even a Gita book in a house. In the olden days, at least, gifts were always given in the form of spiritual literature to each other. And even now, it's like you find ISKCON does this, gives free books and crossings, etc. Means, idea is, Gitaya pustakam yatra. Wherever there is, in whichever place there is the book Gita, or yatra pathaha pravartate, or someone goes through the parayanam. Pathaha here means bar sirf padna, that's it. You're just reading the verses. Pravartate, you're engaged in just doing the parayanam of the verses. Tatra, there. Wherever there is a book or wherever there is a parayanam going on, there, sarvani tirthani, the phal of all the tirath places. All tirath places are there only where there is a book and where there is a parayanam going. Sab tirath yahin pe hai. Prayagadini tatra vai. Like Prayag, etc. All tirath sthan kahan hai? Not in Banaras, not in every place where there is Gita book or the Parayanam, sab tirath wahi hai. Then sarve devascha rishayah yoginah pannagascha ye gopala gopika vapi naradodhava parshadaihi. Wherever sarve devaha cha rishayah cha yoginah cha pannagaha cha, whoever, wherever there is Gita, there all the gods, all rishis, this is all in plural, सब देवता भी वही हैं, सब ऋषि भी वही हैं, सब योगी भी वही हैं, पन्नगाहा भी वही हैं. Pannagaha are the attendants of Lord Shiva. Gopala, Gopika, va api Narada, Uddhava, Parshadaihi, and their attendants also. Means the entire Devaloka The entire, all those who are on the path of the higher, they are all there where there is Gita. Then, Sahayo Jayate Shikram Yatra Gita Pravartate. And they rush to help. This is so beautiful as a bhav. All these people, Sarve Devaha, Rishayaha, Yogis, Pannagaha, Gopala, Gopika, Narada, Uddhav, everybody, they rush to help. Sahaya Jayate. They rush to help. Who? Wherever there is Gita being, they rush to help the environment, the purpose, the jiva who is engaged in all this. They rush for helping wherever it's needed. Yatra Gita vicharascha pathanam pathanam shrutam tatraham nishchitam prithvi nivasami sadaiva hi. He says, nivasami, I stay there. Sadaiva, always. There, tatra aham nishchitam. Definitely I always stay there. O Prithvi, where? Yatra, where? Gita vicharaha cha. Highest. Where there is a vichar on Gita. What are we all going to do? Vichar on Gita. Wherever there's going to be a vichar on Gita, not just that, what is all of us also going to do? Pathanam, where there will be the study of the Gita. Pathanam, teaching. The teaching of the Gita. Shrutam, hearing of the Gita. Just hearing the Gita also. Wherever all this activity means activities centered around Gita. Bhagavad Gita here obviously in the context. Wherever there are activities, whatever be the nature of the activity, tatra aham nishchitam, I am there. Who's saying this? Vishnu is saying this to Dharti. Gita shraye aham tisthami, Gita me chottamam griham, Gita jnanam upashritya, Teen lokan palayamyaham. He says, Gita ashray aham tisthami. He says, I'm not only just there, where Gita, all these engagements have happened, in Gita itself is where I stay. Gita ashray aham. I also take the ashray of Gita only. Tisthami. I also am there. Gita me cha uttamam griham. Gita is the highest house where I abode. But there is another pathantaram and I agree with that pathantaram more. Instead of graham, the word is matam. Matam means my opinion. I think. I understand it like that. He says, wherever there is the Gita, there, that is the uttamam place to be. Highest abode. Gita is the highest abode. That is my view. Gita jnanam upashritya. He says, Vishnu says, Vishnu is the sthiti karta of the jagat. He says, for employing the sthiti of the jagat, I also take the help of Gita Gyan. Gita Jnanam Upashritya. Treen Lokan Palayami Aham. And that is how I protect the three. Palan karta hu Tino Jagat ka. How do I protect the three worlds? I also take the ashray of the knowledge that is there in the Gita. That is how I also use that knowledge and I also manage to run the three worlds. Gita me parama vidya brahma rupa na sanshayah ardha matrakshara nitya swanirvachya padatmika. Again there is a pathantaram. Instead of swa it is sa nirvachya padatmika. Gita me parama vidya. Whatever is the knowledge in the Gita is param vidya, highest knowledge. Brahma rupa, of the nature of Brahman. Na sanshaya, have no doubt in it. There is no doubt in this. Ardha matrakshara nitya. Even that ardha matra, say of Om, the half a letter, is actually anirvachya, is something that is indescribable of the glory of this Brahma Rupa, which is disclosed in the Gita. Even half a letter discloses the whole glory of the Gita. Then, Chidanandena Krishnena Prokta Swamukhatorjunam Vedatrayi Parananda Tattvartha Jnana Sanyuta. He says, Chidananda Krishna himself, Prokta, he said. Who's Krishna? Chidananda, Chit Ananda. Himself, Prokta, spoke. Swamukhataha, from his own mouth. He himself has spoken this. To whom? Arjunam, to Arjuna. What is this knowledge? Vedatrayi. In all the three Vedas, because the fourth Veda was supposed to be later. Atharva Veda is the fourth Veda. The first three Vedas. Vedatrayi Parananda Tattva Artha Jnana Sanyuta. The knowledge that is there in the Bhagavad Gita is equivalent to the Tattva Artha that is there in the three Vedas. And what is its object? Parananda. It gives, contains highest happiness, gives Parananda. So, moksha. Then, now it starts the Arthavada. And this is very beautiful just for its own sake. I think it's more of an encouragement to the students, to those who would think very overwhelmed, oh, kaise hoga, itne sara. So, this is just Yo ashtadasha japaha nityam naro nischalamanasah jnana siddhim salabhate tato yati param padam. He says, Yaha ashtadasha japaha nityam naraha. Yaha naraha. The person who does ashtadasha, 18, the 18 chapters. Japaha nityam means he constantly does the 18 chapters ka jap. Nischala manasaha, with a nischal mind, non-wavering, ekagra mind. Jnana siddhim salabhate. He gets the highest siddhi. He gets the siddhi of jnana. Gains it. Tataha yati parampada. And then thereafterwards, later, he gets parampadam. After death, he gets videha mukti. He gets mukt. Pathe asamartha sampurne. Pathe smartha sampurne. Tatordham pathamacharet. Tada godanajam punyam. Labhate natra samshayaha. Pathe asamartha sampurne. If somebody is not able to, samarth nahi hai, samarthya nahi hai, to do the entire 18 chapters completely, sampurna, is not able to do the parayanam of all the 18 chapters. Tataha ardham patham acharet. He should do half of it. What would be half of 18?
9.
9. So if he does only 9 chapters, supposing, he's not able to do 18, he does only 9 chapters. Then the phal of that is tada, then godanajam punyam. Whatever punyam comes from godan. Godan is dan of cows. Whatever punyam you acquire by doing that physical action, that same equivalent punyam you will get by doing Nischala Manasa Patham of 9 chapters. Acharet, jo karta hai. Natra samshayaha. Have no doubt in this. This karma of parayanam of even 9 chapters done with Nischala Manasa gives you the phal of Godan, equivalent to a Godan. Then he says, if you can't even do 9 chapters, some say, like all of us are in modern lives, हमारे पास time नहीं है. So what should you do? Don't worry. Hinduism is the best in the whole srishti ever. बहुत flexibility है. So if you can't do 9, don't worry, don't give it up. But then tribhagam pathamanastu. What will be the tribhagam? Tribhagam of 18?
6.
6. 6 chapters also patham astu. If you do even 6 chapters, Ganga Snana Phalam Labhet. So whatever the punyam of Ganga Snanam you have to get means you don't have to go to Rishikesh, Haridwar and take dips in the Ganga. Just do 6 chapters of Parayanam where you are sitting, wherever you are sitting. And you get the same path. Then Chadamsham Japamanastu Somayaga Phalam Labhet. Here am I? 12th verse. Okay. Shadamsham would mean now Shad Amsham. Of 18 chapters, what will be the 6th part of it?
3 chapters.
3 chapters. Very good. Shad Amsham. If you can't do all 18 chapters, do 9. You can't do 9, do 6. You can't do 6, do 3. Half of that. 3 chapters. Jappam. If you just do the Parayanam, jap of it, then what is it you get? Somayaga Phalam Labhet. So the ritual of Somayaga, which is a very elaborate ritual, Soma is that nectar, and it is actually a ritual in 2019. Some priests have done this in South India. It's a huge ritual and it requires a lot of material and a lot of things. And then you will get some phal of it. And the phal is actually a very unique phal. The phal of Somayaga is it is beneficial to mankind. I'm sorry, I'm going to extend this a bit because we'll just finish this. It's okay with everybody, I'm sure. Otherwise, whoever is in a hurry, you can catch up the recording also later. So he gets the Somayaga Phalam Labhet. He gets the phal of Somayaga, and the phal is beneficial to the whole society. Somyaga phala, it brings prosperity. It brings the natural laws in order to benefit everyone, society as a general. No demarcation to humanity, to life. That's the one of the phalams, and of course to the person gives a lot of anugraha. All that Somayaka anugraha will be earned how? 3 chapters. Just 3 chapters japam. Then forget 3 chapters. नहीं होता. बहुत मुश्किल है. Sanskrit words नहीं आते. I am sorry. We have to learn this. We have to do this. We can't do this. We don't have so much time. You just give us in short capsules. How can I reduce my stress? Give me what is the application of Vedanta that I can improve my productivity, my harmony in relationships, my samsara should go, and tell me on WhatsApp. I can't attend the class and I cannot tell it for so long. You give me just message in a short. I am quickly, jaldi se bata do because we have no time. In that case, we can't eliminate you as an adhikari. Therefore, एक अध्यायम तो यह नित्यम but नित्यम पठते 1 chapter एक अध्यायम तो यो नित्यम पठते but condition is bhakti sanyutah, but your heart should have bhakti there. It means you should be in devotion, you should be in shraddha, you should have no sanshaya about the words that you are chanting, you are repeating, you are doing japa of. Then Rudra lokam avapnoti gano bhutva vasechiram. Beautiful. Then what will be your benefit? You will go to Rudra lok, Shiva lok, and Gano bhuta, along with his ganas, you will abide with them. In Shiva lok, along with his ganas, you will abide with them. How long? Vaset chiram. Long time. Bahut lamba. Human being cannot even fathom the time. You will stay with Shiva and his ganas in Shiva loka. When? 1 chapter. Is it not worth the investment? 1 chapter but with bhakti. It's definitely worth the investment of time. Forget about this, supposing someone says, I can't, ye nahi hota mujhse. You know, one chapter is also very difficult. Then he says, Adhyayam shloka padam va nityam yah pathate naraha sayati naratam yavan manvantaram vasundhare. And 15th will also go together. Chandra lokamavapnoti varshanam yutam dhruvam Gita patha samayuktaha mrito manushatam brajet. He says, Gita yaha shloka dashakam. If you can't do one chapter, no? Shloka dashakam. 10 shlokas? Just do any chapter, 10 shlokas. If you can't do, no, 10 shlokas, too much. Sapta, 7 shlokas? No, I can't do 7 shlokas. Pancha shlokas? 5 shlokas? No, I can't. Chatushtayam, 4 shlokas? Dvau, 2 shlokas? Trinekam, 3, 2, 3, 1 shloka? Tat ardham. From 1 shloka also, half of that 1 shloka. Just half of a shloka. Tat artham. Shloka nam yah pathet naraha. Whoever will read. Chandralokam avapnoti. He will go to Chandralok and live there. Varsha nam ayutam dhruvam. He would live there for 10,000 ayutam dhruvam. 10,000 years. And then what will happen? Gita patha samayuktaha mritaha. Supposing at the time of the death. Means you have not done all of this. अपने जीवन में ये सब गीता नहीं किया है. Starting from reflection on Gita and abiding your life, then doing parayanam of 18:9. कुछ भी नहीं किया. Not even one ardha matra. You have not done. But at the time of death, mritaha, Gita patha, you uttered the word Gita. So at the time of death, your mind samyuttaha. So instead of worrying about what happened to your children and grandchildren and what will happen to your property and your money and this and that and all that, in fact, this is the most toughest to do. We may think सारी जिंदगी हम ये सब कर लेते हैं, मरते समय गीता वर्ड बोल देंगे, हो जाएगा. This will be the toughest. In fact, गीता वर्ड नहीं बोला जाएगा उस वक्त if the whole life you have not led with Gita. But if you do this, sanyuktaha manushyatam vrajet, definitely you will be born a manushya again next time. What does this mean? At this point,
Means your journey will not get cut. You will continue on your journey.
excellent. Not only will you continue on your journey, there is no guarantee otherwise that there is a manushya janma again. But well put. Correct. Okay. And then, where are we? Next one. Gita bhyasam punah kritva labhate muktim uttamam. Okay. Gita bhyasam punah kritva labhate muktim uttamam. Gita ityuchara sanyuktaha mriyamano gatim labhet. He says, if he does Gita abhyasa punah again and again. So some of us are studying it for the second time. Some people are studying it for the third time. So when you do it again and again, so having done it once doesn't become it's finished now. Doing it again and again, abhyasa, repeated study of it. What will be the gain? By repeated study and reflection and application and thinking again and rethinking and redoing and re-understanding, constantly applying yourself to get to the right meaning of it. By constantly doing that, what is the gain? Labhate muktim uttamam. What is the highest? Uttamam mukti. You get that. Then, Here at the time of death, Gita iti uchchara sanyuktaha. Okay. This was uchchara sanyukta mriyamano gatim labhet. So the upper sentence was only to say he gets the manushya jivan again. He says same thing. He gets a higher gati if he uses the word Gita at the mriyamanaha while he is dying. Here it says at death he will get manushya janma again. Mriyamanaha is again while in the process of dying. His mind is samayuktaha. Gita uchchara. But he speaks it. Uchchar hai yahan. He says Gita. So, and in his mind, like we often say, we keep names of people. So if his helper or his granddaughter's name is Gita and he's calling Gita, so his mind is sanyuktaha with what? With the child. If the granddaughter's name is Gita and he says Gita, but he's calling the child, his mind. But in your mind, when you say Gita, it should be the entire Bhagavad Gita. Then he gets the labhate gatim. Gitartha shravanasaktaha mahapapayutopi va vaikuntham samavapnoti vishnuna saha modate. Where am I? Gitartha shravana asaktaha. So when you are listening to Gita, asaktaha, deeply, intently, with interest, just hearing it. Nityam krit, where am I? Mahapapayutaha apiva. He goes to Vaikuntha samavapnoti. He goes to Vaikuntha and stays with Vishnu and enjoys. Modate. He revels. Having got over Mahapapa, even if he had a lot of papam, he got over that papam and goes and stays with Vishnu for a long time and enjoys. But does that mean it's mukti? No. We'll return back to the new srishti, start the process again. Okay? So you see the gradation of the phalam and you know what you're aspiring for. This helps decide a lot of things actually. Gita mashritya bahavaha bhujo janakadayaha nirdhuta kalmashaloke gitayatah param padam. He says it's not just Vishnu saying this. Many great people, it's not one or two. Bahavaha bhujo, great kings, many people like Janak Adayaha, Janak Adi. Many people have taken ashray in Gita, Gitam ashritya. They have taken ashray in the knowledge that Gita offers. And what have they become? Nirdhuta kalmasha loke. They have, nirdhuta means removed, shaken off. Kalmasha, all the sinfulness, the foulness, kalmasha, the dirt. They have removed all of this in the world. Their papam they have removed. Gita yatah param padam. And in their vyavhar, they have removed all the dirt away and they get to the param padam that the Gita is talking about, the highest. Gita yah pathanam kritva mahatmyam naiva yah pathet vritha patho bhavet tasya shrama eva yudahritaha. Now he says, this is purely Arthavada. He says if you've done all this Gita study, having studied Gita, if a person does not do this Mahatmyam that we have just done, if you do not do the Mahatmyam, then all your study goes waste. It's of no use at all if you have not studied the Gita. So fortunately we are starting it with the Mahatmyam so that all our study remains fruitful. Then Etan Mahatmya Sanyuktam Gita Bhyasam Karoti Yaha Satat Phalamavapnoti Durlabham Gatim Apnuyat. On the other hand, the one who does the Gita study along with the Gita Mahatmyam, he gets that phalam which is indeed dullabham, which is very, very rare. And then the conclusion is Sutuvacha, because Puranas have stories in the stories. So Suta is saying, Mahatmyam etad gitaya maya prokta sata. This is a spelling mistake. Sanatanam gitante cha patedyastu yaduktam tat phalam labhet. This is the Gita Mahatmyam. It can be studied at the end of the Gita also. And one who does that gets the phalams that is mentioned. Na sanshayaha. There is no sanshaya about it. So with this we conclude the Gita Mahatmyam. Now there are still 2 more aspects left. You must have patience. But I am not going to do this in particular. This is Gita. Before people start, sometimes you see, we all have a certain degree of adhikaratvam and we lack a certain degree of adhikaratvam. So to be able to make the knowledge more intuitive to us, Shastras have given us a lot of methodologies or karmas in that sense, which can anchor the mind in the knowledge. So there is a karma which is karanyasaha, hridinyasaha. This is otherwise a karma where you place, if it's in an upasana, you place the mantras on, karanyasa is on the palm, different aspects. Hridinyasa is on the heart and the different placement of the body parts. So through the verses itself, this is done, so say who's the rishi, who's the chandaha, in which meter it is chanted, devata, and then each verse, and there are this physical representatives of it. So if it's a karanyas, then angushtayam, tarjani, etc., etc. Now this I am going to skip, I think, because there's a very beautiful video on, I just saw it. I was trying to see how to bring a link to you people. I can't. But this is, I don't know her name fully. I can't pronounce. Geisha something it is. She's quite popularly now on YouTube channel. She has done this karanyasa and hridinyasa fairly accurate it is. So since we don't do it in a part of our study as such, but if anybody is interested, this part gets covered and it's nice to know she's done it very beautifully. If we have time, we will do it, but we need to do what is essential. So that is there, and then starts the Gita Dhyanam. This we are going to do tomorrow. Dhyana shlokas they're also called, and this we will pick up tomorrow. Okay. So with this we will end the class today. Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhave. So much. If there is any question, so far I think whatever they were, I have covered them. Anything from today? Otherwise, so Hariom, thank you so much. I hope it was clear. Yeah, everyone, fairly, for the first hearing, maybe. Okay, great. So we'll see you tomorrow. Hariom.
Hariom.